The voters of Georgia 6 know her. She's served them. Jon Ossoff, of course, is from outside the district. He can't even vote for himself today. Most of his monies come from out of state. You know, California doesn't need a 54th congressman. Georgia needs somebody who's going to represent their district.
So the early numbers in terms of early vote are about 140,000 early vote. And just to give people a sense, in the 2014 midterm, there were 210,000 votes cast. So there was a significant amount of early vote here. You know, how do you feel that went? Do you think it leaned GOP or do you think it leaned Dem? You know, how do your voters vote in that district in terms of early voting?
It's neck and neck in the early voting, according to what we're seeing, and I think Karen Handel's going to have an edge on Election Day voting. We think this is going to be a record turnout. Like you said, in 2014, you saw 210,000 voters turn out. I think you'll see between 230 and 250,000 voters turn out for this special election. The interest is very high, and each of them are making their case, and of course Karen's better suited to represent that district.
So what about the fact that Jon Ossoff has sort of presented himself as a middle-of-the-road candidate, especially in the final weeks of this of the campaigning period here? And, you know, President Trump has a 39% approval rating, and Karen Handel has said, you know, I'm not an extension of the White House. So how's that going to sort out?
Well, Jon Ossoff's really tried to be all things to all people. So he's taking his money from California and New York, from the liberal side of the Democrat Party. But in district, he's not talking about President Trump. He's saying, I'm going to go to Washington and work with Republicans. He's saying he's going to fight raising taxes. So he's trying to play himself as some moderate Democrat. We know he's going to go to Washington and vote with Pelosi 100% of the time. So he's trying to have it both ways within the district. I think the voters are seeing that. And Karen's keeping it local. She's focusing on jobs, the economy, and helping people in the Georgia 6 district. And she's going to come to Washington and be a support to the White House and help us repeal and replace Obamacare, pass tax reform, and get jobs coming back to that district.
Ronna, thank you very much. Good to see you tonight. We're going to be watching every minute of this as the story unfolds. And joining us now, Chris Stirewalt, Fox News politics editor. Tom Bevan is co-founder and publisher of Real Clear Politics. And Austin Goolsbee, former top advisor to President Obama. Gentlemen, good to have you with us tonight. When I hear about counties and numbers, I think of Chris Stirewalt. I also think of Tom Bevan. So, Chris, what do you think? Dig in here.
This is awesome. This is so great. I've been in withdrawal from vote counting, and this one we know is a big deal. The previous two special elections, contested special elections, were sort of like fan fiction for Democrats, like, oh, we'll win in Montana. I'm like, no, and we're going to win in Kansas, no. But this is one where this is a straight-up, absolute toss-up. This is a district that has been trending Democrat. It is the most educated district that Republicans hold. It is the most educated, most college degree holders of any district that Donald Trump won in 2016. This is where the Democrats' future lies, in districts just like this. What we're going to be watching for tonight is basically this. You need 2 votes. Jon Ossoff needs 2 votes in the Democratic portion, Fulton County, or I'm sorry, DeKalb County, closer into Atlanta. He needs 2 votes there for every 1 vote in Fulton County, which is the lion's share of the district. So he's got to try to run up the score closer to the city because, as the RNC chairwoman pointed out, the Republicans are going to try to run things up in the northern part of Fulton. I can't wait.
It's fascinating. So, Tom, how did the numbers shake out in terms of Democrats and Republicans in this district?
What are we looking at? A month ago you said that those were
well, as you mentioned, I mean, this is a very Republican district, has been, although Trump only won it by 2 points last time. The trend lines favor Handel. I mean, Ossoff had a lead in the polls leading into the last round of polls that came out that showed her closing pretty quick. Right now, the polls have it an absolute toss-up. I think this is going to be a nail-biter. It's going to be a long night. But if you're looking at the trend lines, the way things were moving, seemed to be shifted in her direction here toward the end of the campaign.
So, Austin, what do you think the Trump factor is here?
And you look at what could
there's no way this district would ever be competitive for a Democrat if at this point in his presidency Donald Trump didn't have the lowest approval rating in the history of presidential polling.
restricted.
And this is a district that the Democrats really had no business winning. Maybe someday in the future, but they've lost this district by 25 to 40 points, except for the one year they couldn't even get a candidate, and they lost by 99 points. So I think Republicans in the Senate especially, and all around the House,
I want to say hello to you,
have
but
absolutely
you also
one eye
mentioned
on this,
that this two-step process could change.
If a Democrat could actually win in a district like this, I think everybody's going to get as far from President Trump's agenda as they possibly can. If the Democrat cannot win in this race, then they're going to say, it's just like these other special elections.
They're willing to do that.
Yeah. Chris, when you look at this tonight, and you look at Donald Trump and the approval number that he has right now, and you talk about the educated, the college-educated voter, which was a tough group for him to pull over to his side. It was a group that he struggled with in the national election. Has John Ossoff presented himself in a way that's going to be appealing to people who may have peeled off from this president?
We may be able to
I've never heard a Democrat talk so much about balanced budgets. I've never heard a Democrat talk so much about wasteful spending since the Clinton era. It is he knows who his audience here is. And the best words. And you know, basically, the parties are eyeing each other's exposed flanks. Republicans took advantage of the fact that Democrats really neglected white working-class voters, especially in the upper Midwest, in 2016. Hillary Clinton left all that money sitting on the table, and Donald Trump was only too happy to sweep it up. The question now for Republicans in the Trump era is, can these affluent, college-educated voters, who are certainly cool, to say the least, towards President Trump, can Republicans keep them as part of the coalition? Because if they can't, the Democrats are going to eat their lunch in like 70 districts across the country.
All right, you want to place wagers?
62% are made up.
Let me start with you, Tom Bevin. Who do you think is going to win tonight?
With the rest, of course, Europe, Africa, and others, and South America. And some are saying, perhaps this is now becoming very Asia-focused. The index is very Asia-focused, maybe almost too concentrated now. What do you say to that?
They're going to have to have a recount.
Really?
Well, it reflects the realities of
the Democrats actually make this an interesting.
And Chris Darwalt, you love to do this.
Obviously, Asia has been very prosperous.
I'm going to go with the winner tonight will be the American people and the viewers of the Fox News channel.
Come on.
Technology companies that are coming out of China and listed in Hong Kong and New York and other places.
It's going to be close.
The Taiwanese companies
how about this? Every external indication is it's going to be close.
On the flip side, many of the other
take the
emerging
Austin
markets,
cheat and say recount.
South America and
recount. Only Tom Bevin willing to put his money where his mouth is. All right, guys, we'll be back. Thank you so much. So coming up tonight, the Trump administration making moves on tax reform and on health care. So why does that take a back seat to whether or not Sean Spicer briefs the press on camera? We're going to talk about that with Anthony Scaramucci and Crystal Ball coming up next. And a Russian jet armed to the teeth flies within 5
was this one of the most intense
of a U.S.
meetings?
recon plane.
Was there a lot of debate?
U.S. officials are now saying, we've seen this 35 times, but at 5 feet, we're going to call this unsafe. What is next between our two countries as tensions escalate? And a federal judge orders the removal of this cross from a Florida
we
park.
clearly spend a huge amount of time in consultations with our clients. And then we
sends a
reflected a lot of
message to
those
non-Christian
views
citizens that they're not welcome in the community.
And the Shanghai and Shenzhen exchanges. And the
which is higher than what the initial proposal was, big-ticket agenda items
still
like
a drop in the ocean, some are saying, when it comes to China in the context of EM.
Some of those headlines.
Did MSCI essentially give in to this? I know China did make some concessions, but not exactly letting go exactly either.
I don't know what world we're living in right now. We're standing at the White House, and they bring us into the briefing room here at the White House, and they won't answer these questions on camera.
An honest, simple question. What do they fear more, the questions these days or the answers?
Do you want a president who is unchallenged, who only delivers a message that he wants? That is not the American way.
Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry live at the White House with the latest fallout. Hi, Ed.
So we scaled it back. Still an uphill battle for the president in passing those big items like health, taxes, and don't forget building the wall as well. But he has been making progress this week. But as you noted, more focus really on some inside baseball, like how many briefings Sean Spicer is having on camera than the actual substance of what's being discussed and laid out here. You mentioned Jim Acosta at CNN lashing out at the president, aides like Spicer, tweeting about an interaction with the press yesterday, quote, at off-camera, no audio briefing, Spicer took a question from a Russian reporter, but not from CNN. Hashtag an obvious reference to the allegations of Russian interference in the election, which still dominates the coverage of the president, even though today we saw the Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin declare he's 100% committed to major tax reform this year, as Speaker Paul Ryan unveiled an ambitious plan to try and get there. And the bill may be moving forward as well on repealing and replacing Obamacare, as Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell inched closer to unveiling his version of the bill Thursday, though conservatives like Mike Lee say they share Democrats' concerns with the lack of transparency about what's in the bill, putting McConnell on defense over health as Ryan tried to play offense on taxes.
So I think
everybody will have an adequate time to take a look at it.
But the path and
I think this will be about as transparent as it could be.
About once in a generation or so,
of those investors,
there's an opportunity to do something absolutely transformational. Something that will have a truly lasting impact long after you and I are gone. That moment is here, and we are going to meet that moment.
We're looking for
to be sure, that moment could just as easily pass. They're running out of legislative days on Capitol Hill, which is why tonight there are some conservatives calling on the president to tell Congress to cancel that August recess.
I mean, Henry, I'm curious if...
So here's my story today.
After this decision that's been made, do you expect
tons of attention.
even bigger
you see, a reporter
reforms,
asked why there are more
would they be, and what would you like to see beyond those three
senior
that you
strategist
just mentioned?
Steve Bannon to ask why. She was answered with a curt text that read, Sean got fatter. This launched a Twitter war between Chelsea Clinton and two conservative writers. Charlie Spearing offered this keen insight about the Bannon quip, which sounded about right. It's a joke, people. To which Chelsea Clinton responded, oh, okay, so using fat-shaming to avoid answering questions about increasing opacity, got it, 2017. Jim Hansen, former special ops, chimed in, PR managed response from the humor-impaired left. It was a joke. Finished by Clinton. Hi, Jim. Just me, as I was standing in line at Starbucks earlier. Fat-shaming isn't a joke I find funny. Ever, she said.
Right, and that's Steve, though. I mean, that could likely quicken given this decision, no?
Russian jets buzzing U.S. pilots. Off-the-cuff sarcasm from a typically acerbic Steve Bannon sent some into a safe space tizzy over the horrors of fat-shaming in the larger context of the White House that spews tweets and leaks on a daily basis as being too opaque. Spicer answered with an on-the-record, on-camera briefing. All journalists want the big questions answered, and the White House must be transparent. As taxpayers, everyone there works for all of us. However, this spiral from joke to tirade may reveal more about the Twitterers and the texters, all hyper-focused on their inside the Beltway noise than much else. That's my story.
Just one final thing on China,
see what they think about all this. Anthony Scaramucci was member of the Trump Transition Team Executive Committee and Crystal Ball, Executive Director of the People's House Project.
When do you expect that could happen?
Crystal, let me start with you.
What conditions would need to be there?
I think
Sean Spicer being fat-shamed is probably number 987 on my list of concerns about this White House. But, you know, I think it's a real challenge covering this White House in this era because there is a whole lot going on. To your point, I do think that we've failed in a lot of respects to cover the big issues, things like health care, things like the fact that the Dodd-Frank financial bill was essentially repealed in the House. At the same time, the changes in the briefings are substantive and significant, and here's why. This is an administration and this president has been incredibly hostile to the press from the way that he campaigned.
Do you think the press has been hostile to him?
For the Gulf nation as well. You take a look at them being in the watch list now for possible inclusion. What was the thinking behind that? What really made it happen here in the last 2 years? The kingdom really has opened up its markets. So given that context of that hostility coming from the administration, when you see these sorts of shifts, it is troubling. You worry about whether this is eroding what has been part of what's made our country great, which is a free press.
I think of that.
Well, the first thing I was thinking of, thank God I didn't have the donor in the green room before I showed up on the set.
They have been following a very consistent
that the press has been hostile,
programmatic path
and they've been hostile from the beginning of the campaign right up until today. And the reason why they're so hostile is that this is such a disruptive, transformative candidate who has brought an economic like A team together, who kept the House and Senate, who is a transformative leader, but he's not styled in the way that the media leaks like. And so
I don't know, the media leaks were like him at the beginning of the campaign when they were showing an empty podium that said Donald Trump instead of Hillary Clinton. And that's what's so interesting here.
They actually didn't, because in the beginning, they were giving him that because they're like, okay, this is going to flame out, and it's not, he's never going to be the president. And there were people all over the media that said this will never happen. And there were some of us, frankly, here, you know, at Fox and other places,
right?
Look at the exit polls and said, okay, he's likely not going to win on election night. So to me, the media at that point thought he was a joke, and now he's the president of the United States. He's our president, and I think they should give him a fair shake. The American public does not think that they're
shake. So what needs to happen then from now until 12 months later to make that decision be a yes? Is there anything specifically that you're looking for?
Yeah, 71% say as the president faced more or less criticism than recent presidents. 71% say more. The same poll also showed rising concerns from Republicans about the president. And the overall approval rating at 36% now, which is very low.
Right, and what you've had from the very beginning of this administration, and let's put the Russia questions and that investigation aside, because I think that's a very sort of partisan lightning rod. But the fact is, from the beginning of this administration, his initiatives have been rolled out in an incredibly incompetent way. You've had sort of chaos, you've had leaks coming out of the administration. So yes, I do think he's been criticized more than other presidents. I also think he's deserved that criticism.
All right, Henry, thank you so much for joining us.
There's an irony in it. I feel like you get more leaks out of this White House, and you get more tweets out of this White House.
I think the leaks are terrible and unfortunate.
But we know a heck of a lot about
TV function, TV Go, and not only be able to watch us live, but also see previous interviews like this one that we just did with Henry Fernandez, dive into any of the securities or Bloomberg functions that we talk about. And you can become part of the conversation by sending us instant messages during our shows. This is for Bloomberg subscribers only, so check it out.
Let's talk about the healthcare
system. This is Bloomberg.
Healthcare passed in like 117 days.
Polling at about 70%
He's on his way to get the healthcare passed in the Senate. That's because people don't fully understand it.
Because the Senate won't tell us what's in the bill.
But once the people fully understand it,
that bill's going to be rolled out on Thursday.
Yeah, and the Senate will explain it. When you move from this sort of command and control government healthcare system to a more market-based healthcare system, that is better for everybody. I don't have to bring out Adam Smith's text to explain that to people, but the invisible hand will help make the system, like it's done in data, transmission, telecommunications, airlines, and every other facet of our technology and economy, it'll be lower priced and better service. And
there's no question that the stock market feels very positive
about it. That's what you just said about the healthcare.
Okay, so why don't we let it roll out? And let's watch phase 1 and phase 2 take place and set in.
Because I don't want 23 million people to lose health care in our attempt.
Well, they're probably going to lose it anyway. They have very few choices in any states across the country.
We both know that the current system is going to implode on itself. We both know that. We can look at the economic numbers, we can look at the upside-down pyramid, and the lack of young people joining the system to know that the thing is going to implode on itself. And so we have to fix it. Thank God for President Trump that he has the gumption and the courage to put this thing together.
To make sure that this bill doesn't implode. And you're right, Obamacare is struggling across the country. So why don't we work on fixing it?
We're not blaming the Obamacare thing on the Republicans.
Medicare for all.
Not going to blame that on the Republicans.
Thank you very much, you guys.
No donuts in the green room for you guys out there, okay? No light on the donuts.
Donuts galore. Have whatever you want. Good to see you guys. Thanks a lot. All right, so breaking tonight, the barn burner special House election out of Georgia. Still too early to call this, but we expect to get some first real results in the next 20 minutes. So stick around for that. And as the Russia investigation spinning out of control, Professor Alan Dershowitz is here on why the scope of this probe may be going too far. Next.
This week.
Developing tonight, President Trump has been the object of criticism for calling the Russia probe a witch hunt. But now, months into this investigation, his descriptor is beginning to potentially look more accurate.
Exactly. That's a huge moment for the Chinese and Hong Kong markets. But kind of
raising a red flag as to the speed with which accusations are flying through the media.
Over in New York, markets also closed.
I'm actually getting more uncomfortable with this whole deal, thinking that maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Beautiful, though.
bothered by the lack of emerging evidence about the underlying crime, that there was actually collusion or coordination between the Trump White House.
In Hong Kong. Let's go to the First 4 News now with Nina Melendez in New York.
Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School.
Good morning, Yvonne.
Great to have you with
MSCI
us.
has approved Chinese domestic shares for inclusion in its
Thank you. We've been looking forward to having you. I want to put up one more piece of David Brooks's piece, because as we say, he has been highly critical of this president. So this is a very big about face for him. He said, quote, things are so bad that I'm going to have to give Trump the last word. On June 15th, he tweeted, and he goes on to say, this is the tweet that he refers to. They made up a phony collusion with the Russian story, found zero proof, so now they go for obstruction of justice on the phony story. And the tweet goes on, and then he comes back to say, unless there's some new revelation, that may turn out to be pretty accurate commentary.
Well, I think he's right. I think what we're seeing from both sides. What happens in America is if you don't like somebody politically, lock them up, throw the key away. Each side criminalizes political differences with the other side. They did it with Hillary Clinton, with the espionage and the email server. That was never going to be a real crime, and they're doing it with Donald Trump. And I'm against it in both instances, but I am getting such heck from my liberal Democratic friends. How dare you stand in the way of this prosecution and impeachment? Well, I'm going to stand in the way because I don't believe the Constitution permits the prosecution of a president, especially for obstruction of justice, on the basis of him doing what he's constitutionally entitled to do, firing the director of the FBI, even telling him to terminate an investigation. As to the Russian collusion, the worst case scenario is still not a crime. Maybe it should be a crime, but there's nothing in the statute, folks, that would make it a crime. If Donald Trump called Putin and said, hey, Putin, help me become president and I'll be good to Russia, that would be terrible, but it wouldn't be a crime. And we have to understand the difference between doing something bad politically.
That would be treason.
It wouldn't be treason.
Why not?
Because the president is elected and he's entitled to make judgments about what's best for the United States.
Yeah, but I mean, you see plenty of people reporting on this who would say, if that's what happened, that would be collusion. And that would show that he worked with a foreign country to undermine a U.S. election. And people say, that's the underpinning of our entire society, of our election process. So you're saying it would be reprehensible, but not illegal.
It wouldn't be illegal because the Putin could. It depends on how you undercut. Obviously, if he hacked voting machines, that would be one thing. But if he leaked tweets, that's what Democrats do.
That's what happened, right? I mean, it was that nasty, embarrassing stuff that came out on emails is exactly what we're talking about here.
It's nasty stuff. It's not criminal.
In terms of indictment, you can't indict a sitting president, correct?
Well, that's what the Justice Department says. They had a ruling back in 1973. They reiterated it more recently, saying the only process is if you think a president's committed a crime, you have to impeach him first, remove him from office, then you can indict him in trial. But you can't try a sitting president for a crime he committed while president or while
and that's because he's elected by the American people. So in order to put him through that scrutiny, he would have to be.
Imagine if a single prosecutor could end the presidency of somebody by simply indicting them and saying you have to be in a courtroom for the next 3 months defending yourself. Look, the Supreme Court made a terrible 9-0 decision with Clinton, where Bill Clinton was sued by Paula Jones. The Supreme Court 9-0 said he could be sued while he was a sitting president.
What's the likely market impact when mainland
China markets and Hong Kong?
What's happened is that the political society, we've learned through Watergate and Whitewater that if you bring enough charges, if you put enough smoke out there, you are able to sort of really make someone's agenda impossible.
And that's what the Democrats have done to the Republicans. That's what the Republicans have done to the Democrats, and the big losers
think that cycle is ever going to be broken?
It better be broken because we're entitled to better from our elected officials on both sides. You don't like a candidate, campaign against them. Go to Georgia. Help the Democrat win the election if you don't like the president. But don't charge him with frivolous crimes which can't be prosecuted under our Constitution today. It just takes time away from the president trying to achieve his agenda. He was elected. We lost. Face it, we lost. We're going to try to win again. But we lost last time. And the answer to that is not making crimes out of political differences.
Thank you, Professor Dershowitz. Great having you here.
Thank you.
Hope you'll come back soon. All right, so breaking tonight. this story out of Brussels. Police thwart a potential terror attack, taking down a suicide bomber in a busy train station before he hit innocents. Former House Intelligence Chairman Pete Hoekstra is with us on the third terror attack on the European continent in the last 2 days. An atheist force, a symbol of hope and faith that has been in one community for nearly 70 years, to be taken down. Governor Huckabee is here with that fight from Pensacola when we come back.
Turned on to flood the market
Belgian police
yet again
believe
as
that they
soon as it
foiled a
starts
major terror
recovering.
attack today at a Brussels train station.
And Lynn, is this
when they shot a
really just
suspect
about
with a
supply?
suicide
I mean, we're heading
vest.
into the summer driving
Soldiers quickly
season.
neutralized the man after he set off a small explosion, which you can see in
You're
this photo.
absolutely right. We should
You
all
might
be
remember that in
driving
March of
around
last
and
year,
taking road
3
trips
coordinated
instead
attacks
we're here.
at the city's airport
That's
and train
usually
station
what we do at
left
this time
32
of year,
people
but
dead.
the
Here now is Pete
government
Hoekstra,
data
the former
is
House
showing
Intel Committee
that
chairman.
our demand
This
for
is the third
gasoline is
attack on
falling
the
this
continent
year. It's
in the
well
last couple
below
of days, or
year earlier
including,
levels, and
including
at least
Paris
in
and the
part,
UK.
that's
What do you
because
make of all
pump
this?
prices are
Well, I think
higher
it's
than they were a year
disappointing,
earlier.
but we can
So
describe
in
this
the
as the
first
new
quarter,
normal
you
in
saw
Europe.
pump
These are
prices
problems that have been
more than
festering.
40
People have been
cents a
predicting
gallon
that this was going to be
above what they
happening.
were in
This is the thing that
2016
we're going to
at
be
the same
reading
time,
about, and Europe is
and
going to be
that's cap
experiencing on a
gasoline
regular
demand,
basis
which in
for
turn
the
is going to
foreseeable
cap the crude
future.
demand at the refineries
In terms
here.
of getting better at it, I mean, thank goodness
Right,
this
not as much road trips
man
it
was
seems like
neutralized,
this summer.
as they
Lynn,
put
go
it,
on. Thank you,
before
joining
he
us.
could blow
They're
up
live from
his,
San Francisco
suicide
on the
vest.
oil markets.
We saw
Of
a
course,
similar
oil,
thing
the
on the
big dragger here in
Champs-Elysees
the
in
U.S.
Paris
markets
yesterday. Are we getting better
following the most in the
at
month on
tracking
Wall
and
Street
finding
as,
these
of course,
guys?
crude slid
Well, I don't
into
think
that bear
we
market. Let's
found
bring us
them. They
Sukin
found
now and talk
us.
about
They
the
found the
action that
law
we saw on
enforcement
Wall
officers,
Street.
and
Sue.
luckily,
Yeah, oil
you know,
stocks
not
were
luckily,
the drag.
these guys
We
were
did see
prepared.
some movers. We'll get to those
These
in a
law
minute. But take a
enforcement
look at the
officials
close
were
one more time, and you'll
prepared
see
to deal with the
again,
situation.
even though there's a lot
They
of red
dealt
on the
with it
screen,
quickly and
it's close
effectively.
to unchanged.
It appears that
Technical
the
and
attackers in
analysts like
both
to
those
see that
cases
because
were
we are
maybe
off the
not
low
that
of the
well
day.
trained,
Let's take
that
a
their
look at what
devices
moved. We had a
malfunctioned
global
and
pharma
didn't carry
company
out the kind
shooting
of
up as it
destruction
agreed
that
to
they
be
were
taken
hoping that
private,
they
a
would.
$4.5 billion
But Europe's
deal,
now got
giving in
needs
to
to get
pressure from
very serious about how they're going to deal with this. Two things that they can deal with that are under their control. They can deal with their borders to stop the mass migration coming into their countries. They can work through NATO with the United States to get rid of the safe havens in Libya and in Syria. But the more complicated problem is how are they going to deal with the internal politics and the internal threat that exists in their countries today.
All right, I want to put up a tweet that President Trump sent out earlier today, and it has to do with China, and it comes in the wake of the horrific killing of Otto Warmbier, a slow death, it appears, by the North Koreans. And this is what the president said. While I greatly appreciate the efforts of President Xi and China to help with North Korea, it has not worked out. At least I know China tried. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I'm assuming that he's reflecting on what happened with Otto. That's clearly been on his mind. He's very deeply concerned about there. I think he recognizes and believes that the Chinese really tried to help to get Otto out of North Korea, that they were unsuccessful in that effort, and that's one of the reasons that Otto is dead today. And so we all mourn with Otto's family and with the other Americans and with the Americans that are in North Korea. But I don't think you can expand this and say, that the president at this point in time is saying, China, we can't expect China to help with North Korea. On this particular issue, China was not successful in getting Otto out.
Is he pressing them, though? Is he saying, you can do better?
The company
it has not worked out, but thank you so much for trying. I mean, there's something to that, perhaps.
I hope so. I hope he's pressuring China. China has the greatest leverage on North Korea, and clearly the president is signaling, that in this specific case, I'm sorry, China, you failed. We had specific objectives. We still have 3 Americans. Help us there. If you can help us on these issues, we have some expectation that you can help us on the bigger issues, which are the nuclear weapons and the missile development.
Well said. Pete Hoekstra, thank you very much.
Thank you. You know that.
Good to see you.
So as you know, tonight we're keeping a very close eye on the special election that is taking place in Georgia tonight in District 6. So we have just started to see some of the numbers rolling in, and we will put them up for you so you can see how this is shaping up next. Plus a court battle over a cross that has stood in Pensacola Park for decades. We're going to tell you why a judge is ordering that powerful symbol that means much to many must come down within 30 days. Governor Mike Huckabee here to react next.
This cross has been there for
60-plus years. No one has ever seriously argued that this is an establishment of religion by the city of Pensacola.
Priceline found a way with Express Deal Hotels. We work with top